This is nuts. Genuinely. Under $1 too. Pick one up.
So, I guess you're pretty depressed, huh?
You a white player? You a blue player? You a black player? Red player? Green player? You'll probably enjoy this video because we're talking about artifacts, baby! What type of artifacts? Artifacts that are... how do I put this? Artifacts that are buried beneath a mass deer grave. You might say, is this guy insane? No. In other words, they're under $1. Yeah, cut to me with a shotgun in my mouth, dude. That was rough stuff. But what's not rough is these artifacts. Smooth is better. Yeah, they're just good. They're gonna cover a wide variety of different decks. Again, they're all artifact. Oh, I just glue up, dude. I had my glow up. Up first is Champion's Helm. We've got 3 colorless for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. As long as equipped creature is legendary, it has hexproof, and it equips for 1 colorless. And yeah, if you have an important commander, great way to protect it and also make it bigger. So if you have a commander that like cares about how much damage it's dealing as well, that's really good. If you're in a legendary tribal deck, this thing's just 1 mana to buff a creature and give it protection. Throw them into the artifact equipment decks. Well of Lost Dreams came out in the same pre-con decks that Teneb did, so I saw this one a lot, and it has some sentimental value to me. I also think it's still a pretty good card. Well of Lost Dreams is 4 colorless for an artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Bilbo Birthday Celebrant, because he like makes you gain 1 additional life whenever you gain life. He's all about life gain. He's an Obzon, so this will fit into it pretty well. Constantly gaining life in this deck, so you're going to be constantly dumping any extra mana you have into card draw, which seems fine. Fire Song and Sunspeaker? Yeah, that seems really good. All your red instants and sorceries have lifelink. Yeah, I'll Blasphemous Act for 1 red, and then dump all the rest of my mana into this. I know people don't like Well of Lost Dreams, and people don't like Mind's Eye or whatever. You're not playing 20-turn games like me and my playgroup are. We're just some good old Commander players over here. We got Trading Post coming in next. This card's very good. I think, again, it's probably falling to the wayside because it cost 4, and that is just like, oh, it's a monumental mana cost. Oh. Well, the Trading Post cost 4. People think that's too much. That's crazy. I think 4 is fine. It's whatever. Again, we're playing such long games in my playgroup. Realistically, I know a lot of people like to talk like they're in hyper focused decks and hyper focused playgroups, and it's like, even casual playgroups only go to like turn 10. That's measure some of your games, you know what I mean? And we'll see if it's really turn 10 or if it's more like turn 15, 20. Most of the time when you play Commander, it's just a bunch of guys like meeting up, hanging out, wanting to just like drink some brews, eat some freaking salsa, and just hang out. Play a little game of Magic, you know what I mean? I don't think they want that game to end in like 5 minutes, so that's my personal opinion. Trading Post, however, is an artifact that you can probably find a deck for. I probably need to... No, I don't probably. I do need to pick one of these up for Teneb. It's really good. 4 colorless for an artifact. You can pay 1, tap it, discard a card. You gain 4 life. Or you can pay 1 and tap it, pay 1 life, create a 0/1 goat creature token. Or you can pay 1 and tap it, sacrifice a creature, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Or you can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice an artifact, draw a card. You don't need any of those. Are you human? Are you a person? Are you going to lock in Cho'Gath 3 times when I try to play it and make me uninstall the game? This isn't about you. Just like plug a deck into this, okay? So let's go Rashmi, even. Rashmi and Ragavan. My Rashmi and Ragavan deck. It's an artifact. Good in that deck. Being able to gain 4 life in a stitch? It's whatever. Paying 1 life to make a goat? It's okay in that deck. Sacking a creature to return an artifact? That's actually really good. And then sacking an artifact to draw a card when we're making a bunch of treasures? That's really good. So yeah, half of these I could use in Rashmi. It's an artifact in play. I'll probably end up running it in there. In Teneb, discarding a card in a Reanimator deck? Yes. Paying 1 life to create a goat token when we have sack outlets? Yes. Sacking a creature to get back our Ashnod's Altar or Altar Dementia? Yes. Sacking an artifact to draw a card? Yeah. That's 100% for that. That's going in. It's a good card. I honestly think there's use in it, like pretty much anywhere. Kind of fitting the theme of like old school bombs that have kind of like been forgotten over the ages. We've got Imperial Plate. I still think this is very good. 2 colorless to equip for 2. Equip creature gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand. Yeah, it's Commander, and especially nowadays with the amount of card draw pretty much most colors have. Most people have 5, 6, 7 cards in their hand at most points in the game. And this thing being a 2 mana equip to equip for said amount of cards in hand as a 1/1. That's really good. This is obviously, if you're in like hyper competitive EDH, pretty much nothing on this channel is going to be like, actually, this was better. I know. Trust me. I'm aware. I still think Imperial Plate's like solid. That equip cost is like marginally low for the buff you get. Karn Silex. I threw it on here, honestly, because I saw a couple lists on Moxfield that still have Nev's disc in it. And I still think Nev's disc is okay. You can kind of see it coming. But you can see this coming as well, and I think it's better, and it has a passive ability that I think is pretty good. And I think it just kind of fell to the side. I think there was a lot of cool cards being released around this time. It was Dominaria, so a lot of iconic cards. So maybe the Silex, the little bowl, kind of fell to the side a bit. 3 for a legendary artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped. Players can't pay life to cast spells or to activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. You can pay X and tap it, exile it, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X or less, activate only as a sorcery. This one you get to control how much you're cracking it for. You can wipe problems off the board. Again, if you're in like a battle cruisery deck where a lot of your creatures are bigger, you can destroy everything that's littler than the creatures you control, which is good. It has a passive that won't let anybody play Phyrexian mana or pay life for abilities. It's not bad. I'm honestly not 100% sure like the specific deck that it's like, oh, this is really good in there. But I think if you're in like a casual format, you need a board wipe. There's some cards being played that people pay life, like Brothers War and all the new Phyrexian cards. There might be more Phyrexian mana cards in your playgroup. I don't know. Just one that I wanted to make people aware of is under $1. Horn of the Mark, however. I feel like a lot of you guys are going to want to add this to your cart. How you guys always talk about you're playing red. You're always playing these, what are they called? Like small early game creatures, I think is what you call it. I think you guys might like this one. 2 for a legendary artifact. Whenever 2 or more creatures you control attack a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, if you're swinging with creatures, you get to dig for more creatures. So then you can dig for more creatures. So then you can dig from... It's really good. It's great, actually. I think this is just good. I'm not a very like aggressive multi-creature early game player. This just seems good though. Like even in Teneb, I'm like, if these went to the graveyard, I would 100% run it in there. They don't, so nah. It's really good though. I think this thing could definitely make some use. In the Alesha deck that we did, in the Alesha Legendary Rats deck that we did on the wheel video, this would be really good because we're going to be attacking with small creatures all the time. Something to be aware of for sure. Let's talk some more equipments. We got Gavel of the Righteous, which is a 2-drop equipment. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, put a charge counter on Gavel of the Righteous. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on Gavel of the Righteous. As long as Gavel of the Righteous has 4 or more counters on it, equipped creature has double strike. And you can equip it for 3 or by removing a counter from it. If your games go long, plus 10 turns, getting this thing out early is going to make it remove a counter, give a creature +8/+8, +9/9, +7/7. Which is really good in certain decks, you know what I mean? If you've got the Evasion, if you're in the Voltron list, you got that Rogue's Passage in play. The fact that it equips for removing a counter is really good too. It doesn't specify what kind of counters have to be on it as well, so if you've got some weird way to put counters on it, I guess that's something you could do, I should say. I feel like everything on this is very efficiently costed for the buff you get. And again, New Capenna Commander. I feel like New Capenna was already kind of a niche set that people kind of forgot about quick, and then Commander even more so. Confession Dial. This one's interesting. This is like probably the one on the list that I'm not 100% on. Like, I think it's pretty good. If you're in the right deck, I think it's pretty good. I should say that. 3 colorless for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 3. Tap it. Target legendary creature in your graveyard gains escape until end of turn. The escape cost is equal to the mana cost plus exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard. The thing is, it is a good card. I do think this is good in the right deck. If you're in the Reanimator legendary deck. What's the Abzan dude's name? Kethis. If you're in Kethis, this actually seems pretty good. In an under $1 artifact video, I had to talk about the best card in Teneb. Because, I mean, it is. It's just the best card in there. Key to the City. 2 colorless for an artifact. Tap it. Discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. Whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Very good in Teneb, because Teneb is, if he hits, you get to reanimate something, so you can dip the thing you want to reanimate, make Teneb unblockable, hit, get back that thing into play. I feel like what a lot of people don't notice about this card is that it says any creature can't be blocked. It's not you control, and you can do it at any time, so you can keep this thing open and then use it as like a political chip. Be like, hey, I'll let that get through if you don't hit me with it. And then when it untaps, pay 2, get a card draw. I still think it's pretty good. I think like Group Plug, again, I think this is probably a good card for that type of deck. Under $1? Sure. Are you sick of all these cards that say win the game? All these fancy new cards that just straight up win you the game. You want a good old-fashioned, big old chunk of damage. Lux Artillery. Might be for you. 4 colorless for an artifact. Whenever you cast an artifact creature spell, it gains Sunburst, which means it enters with a 1/1 counter on it for each color spent to cast it. And then at the beginning of your end step, if there are 30 or more counters among artifacts and creatures you control, it deals 10 damage to each opponent. So the first part's like, sure, meh, it's whatever. I feel like that's probably why it's cheap and gets overlooked, just because people are like, oh, I'm in an artifact deck, or I'm in a 1 or 2 color deck. Sunburst isn't that good. Are you running counters? Because if you're running counters, that second part's real good still. Just doming each opponent for 10. If you've got 30, that's not very hard either, honestly. Especially when you got passive Sunburst going off. I don't know. And like big cool artifact do big cool artifact thing. So Glamdring. 2 colorless for a legendary artifact. Equipment. It equips for 3. Equip creature has first strike and gets a +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to the damage dealt without paying its mana cost. Lord of Nazgul, he has flying, so he's got the evasion, smack face, he's making wraiths, he's all about instants and sorceries. If you are coming up with anything that these cards would be really good in, drop a comment. And subscribe. We're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. Just a little plug. We're back on really good cards for Taneb. I'm sorry. Realmbreaker, the Invasion Tree. Very good. 3 for a legendary artifact. You can pay 2, tap it. Target opponent mills 3 cards. You put a land card from their graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. It gains if this land would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. You're just milling opponents, stealing their lands. Pretty good. But it does more. Pay 10, tap it, sack it. Search your library for any number of Praetors and put them into play. When I run 2 Shieldreds and Devorn Collects in Taneb, this is nuts. Genuinely. Under $1 too. Pick one up. And then finally, if you need a giant threat to win a game in most decks, we've got Wondrous Crucible, which is a 7-drop artifact that gives all your permanents ward to. At the beginning of your end step, mill 2 cards, then exile a non-land card at random from your graveyard, copy it, and may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Again, you can see that I'm a man after the heart of long games by this list. And if you like long games, you'll probably like a lot of these. Fun, chaotic card if you're into that kind of thing. Big bomb artifact. Again, all these artifacts, if they cost more than 5, artifacts are one of the easiest things to cheat in early. So just some cards I thought you should be made aware of. And that's it, dude. Don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. That's it. Have a good one. Huge shout out to our patrons that you can now see on the screen. If you want to become one of these patrons, it starts as low as $1 and it helps out the channel a ton. Helps me get out more high quality content to you guys. And if you would consider that, that'd be amazing.